News Nation contributor and political and media strategist Kurt Bardella with us. Kurt, is always a pleasure. These differing pain points, I mean, it just gets more and more challenging for each side to try to find a way out. Let's talk about the Democrats. What leverage do they have right now to continue to vote no?
Yeah, they're running out of leverage. And we started seeing some movement last week with some of the votes where the Georgia senators, Ossoff and Warnock, actually voted with Republicans on some of the measures they put forward. The longer this goes, the more untenable it becomes, really, for both parties. And it is a plague on both parties. Let's start with the fact that neither Republicans or Democrats were that well thought of by the American people to begin with. The ceiling's pretty low here in terms of public approval of Congress in general. Now you layer this on top of it, and it just looks like to most Americans as dysfunction junction, just a continuation of what the American people have seen year after year after year, and that's Congress fundamentally failing to do its most basic job. Fund the government, keep the government working, keep administering the programs that the government funds. That's the entire purpose of why the legislative branch exists, and they are failing, and both parties own that. And now we're getting to a point where there's going to be real pain felt widespread by tens of millions of Americans. The shutdown was all fun and games up until this moment. Up until now, most people haven't felt the real impact of the shutdown. That's about to change. And that means, again, the pressure will build on both parties. Democrats are trying to make a deal, but it's everybody knows Republicans totally control Washington. They have the White House, they have the Senate, they have the House of Representatives. They're going to have to step up and show that they can govern, or they're going to also have huge problems politically.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear just that one woman's story. She said, I didn't see this coming. I'm educated, I had a job, and I can't put food on the table, and I can't get formula for my baby. Senate Republicans there's at least the thought that they might try to blow up the filibuster to end this shutdown. This is considered the nuclear option. How significant might that be, and is it necessary?
Yeah, it's interesting. That topic came up at the News Nation town hall with Chris Cuomo, Bill O'Reilly, and Stephen A. Smith, with Senator Joe Manchin being there talking about that. And it was interesting. You had a member of the House in Ro Khanna kind of saying, you know what, if that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. And you had an institutionalist like Manchin saying, we don't want to touch that. And again, when you start taking rid of norms, getting rid of norms, you have to be ready for the fallout. These things don't happen in a vacuum. They will be used against you or for you by the next time the next party is in power. And so if you do something today, you better be okay with it happening to you tomorrow. That's why the filibuster is such a slippery slope.
What's your prediction with this November 1st open enrollment, how that might influence the timeline of all of this and getting some sort of deal together?
Well, if you were to listen to Democrats when this started, that's the entire reason why they were against funding the government without some sort of fix addressing the spike costs in healthcare that everyone's about to have on November 1st. And so, there's a logical party that says, well, November 1st came and went. The thing still happened. The reason why you shut down the government happened. So why don't you at least open the government and we can start working on the other thing? Democrats don't want to look weak. They don't want to look like they did this for no reason, that they got nothing out of it. And again, I think that the longer this goes and the more people are impacted, the greater the political weight will be on Democrats and Republicans to get something done. Soon it'll just be a plague on both our houses. Let's just move on from this pain and focus on the other thing.
It seems as though the one thing that Democrats and Republicans, Kurt, agree on is that health care needs to be addressed, right? We've got rising costs. People are hurting to pay for basic needs when it comes to taking care of their health. The problem is, after you agree on the fact that it's a problem, they can't agree on how to address it.
Yeah, and this is what Democrats should do is say, hey, we've made our point. We've drawn attention to this. We are going to reopen the government so that innocent people's lives aren't derailed by the politics of the moment. And then, frankly, it's a Republican majority. It is a Republican majority that will own the healthcare spikes and the rising in premium costs that tens of millions of Americans will experience if they don't fix it. It's their government. They have to fix it. Democrats can win on that message.
If they do sign a continuing resolution, when are we talking about this again? Does it happen before the end of the year? just trying to set my calendar.
We keep kicking the can down the road. They
Yeah.
do these 6-week, 3-month, 6-month. If they're smart, they will try to kick this can past the midterm elections. If all they can get done is, well, let's just get through the holiday season and we'll have the spike yet again in January, February, so be it. At this point, something is better than nothing.
I'm glad you brought up the elections because we've got one coming up. How does this influence voters' mentality, right, when they're thinking about government working, not just at the federal level, but trickling all the way down?
Yeah, I often find in these, like, especially like in a state in a Commonwealth like Virginia, where you have governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor races going on, the DC politics and Congress don't usually bleed over to state houses. And you have to remember, voters generally they aren't paying as close attention. They're not paying as much attention to the state attorney general's race, not paying as much attention to the state lieutenant governor's race. So I don't think that it will actually have too much of an impact. If anything, it could have a turnout impact. But again, in these off-year elections, the diehards are the ones who carry the turnout load, and they already know who they're voting for. We have early, voting by mail that's been going on for a minute now, so I don't think it'll factor too big into it. But again, you never know, right?
Yeah. Well, it looks like a beautiful day in Washington. Great day to get some stuff done. Open the government back up so people can get paid. Kurt, I'll see you next time. Thank you as always.
We'll see you soon, my friend.